exclusive to Talk TV following freedom of information requests that have been made. I'm very pleased to welcome Tim Davies, good friend to the programme, former RAF fighter pilot, to talk about this and more. Tim, welcome.
Good to see you, thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us. I know you're expecting Mike Graham, but it's me, Nick Dubois. But the substance of this story, I think, really does need some delving into, and who better than someone who's been there and done that. I mean, it strikes me, you've got this obvious contrast between a new Prime Minister who's talking about it's really important to get more money to the defence budget, but he won't tell us when or how. And actually, isn't the first place they should be looking is at crazy expenditure like this, which you know impacts on the front line as well?
Well, absolutely. They've only been in for, a week and a bit or something, haven't they? So we've got to give them a little bit of a chance. But I don't think they're going to do anything about it. It's probably going to get worse, let's be honest. I did see Tony Blair tell Keir Starmer not to get wrapped up in the whole culture wars, because you're going to answer questions and you're going to be talking about things that you really don't want to talk about. So we're not going to hear from the government on this kind of thing. And they're not going to be any better than the Conservatives. This is coming from outside of our country. This is worldwide. This is about immigration. It's about the dilution and the blending of ethnic indigenous populations so that we don't have a nation state anymore. Therefore, we're more able to belong to some unified European, whatever it might be in the future, or some weird world government, whichever side of the conspiracy fence you want to fall on. But I don't see it changing. I do think it's a massive waste at a time when resources are absolutely critical in the military.
The defence for this that's been put up by the Ministry of Defence is, you know, we want to be the best in the world. We want to have, it's a competitive age. Our strength lies in the talent and skills of our people. We want to recruit and retain the best people drawn from the broadest diversity of skills and background. I just want the best people in our armed forces. And that's where I'm really uncomfortable with the idea of engineering going on. Isn't that, in effect, what is at risk here? We don't get the best pilots, we don't get the best young officers, the best young men on the front line, if we are making a choice based on, shall we say, diversity principles.
Yeah, absolutely. So I train many men, women on this airplane here, all religions, all ethnicities, couldn't care less. The jet doesn't know what colour you are when you crew into that airplane. You don't type into it, I'm a disadvantaged young black kid from North Birmingham. It doesn't know. So it would just kill you in the same way. What the jet does care about, Nick, it cares how good you are. It really does. And if you're not good, like many of my friends, it will just kill you. And hopefully it won't land on an orphanage or a nunnery or a school, but it will still kill you. So the way that we social engineer the military is done by, I will say it, idiots at the top who have no idea what they're doing. The military is a meritocracy. It has to be, unfortunately, because if you're not good enough, you just die. And I think the fact that we're not talking more about this is just proves basically how stupid people in command positions or leadership within our government actually are. They have no idea, Nick. I mean, you do. You've been in politics before. You understand what happens when the best people aren't there. The world falls apart and it falls apart very quickly. Well, let me tell you, in wartime, that happens in tenfold the speed. So absolutely, if we don't get the best people into this military, then people just die.
And I suppose the logic says, isn't there a danger to on both a national level and an individual level, if we're encouraging someone to go into a career in the military, if they don't necessarily even want to be there by choice, but we're, again, pushing people in because of targets? There must be a risk there.
Yeah, that's what's happening, unfortunately. So what you're finding is that when you do press gang people into the military and you promise them the world, they don't stay as long as someone like myself that started thinking about aviation when I was about 8. And I can, you know, I've talked about it before on my own YouTube channel. So you tend to have this very early sort of interest into going into the Marines, the British Army, the Navy, the Air Force. And you do things like you go to Cubs, or you go to Scouts, or you join the Air Training Corps, or you go to the Officer Training Corps, or University Air Squadron. These things are in your history when you end up going into the military. And anyone in the military will tell you this. They've been involved since a very early age. if you go into Nando's, which is exactly what the Royal Air Force did when it tried to recruit ethnic minorities, and it sat there and it said to them, you be good on our statistics, come in, and it helped them get through all of the tests to go into the military, then what you get is people that do join, they have no idea what to expect, they stay a couple of years and they leave.
And so retention is a problem, isn't it? Because they're claiming, the Ministry of Defence, that actually this is all diversity, all this millions that we've revealed are being spent, 3.4 million being spent on these diversity roles, is all about improving the quality of our military services. But the reality is we are still losing. I mean, in 16,000 people left the services in 22-23. Retention is a problem. It's not working, this diversity stuff, is it?
Yeah, absolutely, they're idiots. I'm not, Nick. I don't know why people. They're idiots. They're absolute idiots. And we can't say it enough. This is the problem. There's another agenda at play here. You know, it's happening all over the world. The American military is suffering in the same way. And if you look at people who value the Royal Air Force leadership, in the last survey they put out, it was 18% of people had any kind of respect for the Royal Air Force leadership. I mean, it's going downhill, and we should be holding more people accountable for it. When the Royal Air Force were told back in 2021 they were given targets by the government to recruit, I believe it's something along the line of 15% women they were told to recruit, and 10% they were using the term BAME, which we all hate, but that's what they were told. They put that up to 20% women for no other reason than they thought that it would be a good idea. So you can see, when you leave this in the hands of people who are ill-equipped to deal with it, you will get a degraded service, and it will affect us all. And this money you're talking about now, this is public taxpayer money that could be used on schools, education, or health. That's going into diversity champions within the service. The whole thing is, I think it's bordering on the criminal. I don't know why we don't do anything about it, to be fair, other than the fact that people obviously don't fully understand the problem.
Well, Tim, I'm glad we're talking about it here on Talk, even if the Prime Minister won't. Tim Davies, former RAF fighter pilot, thanks very much indeed for joining me on that. I mean, how much does national pride as well play in a military career? You know, if you're going to engineer people in, actually, surely it's if we taught people to have a little bit more love for country, anyone I'm talking about, to have love for country, I think you'd find they'd end up probably in the services one way or the other. Maybe half our problems will be solved.